Welcome to Empower and Evolve, and I'm your host, Dunstan, and thanks for coming into today's episode. Now, this podcast is designed for those looking to break free from stagnation and enhance their well-being through actionable insights and inspiring stories. So you'd never miss an episode, hit that follow button and follow us through our social media accounts. Now, if you find value in our discussions, consider sharing this podcast with friends who you think might benefit listening today. Now let's get started on this journey of empowerment and transformation. Hi there, and thanks for coming back to Empower and Evolve. Now, a few numbers I'd like to start off for today's episode. 1,440 minutes in a day. 0.5 to 1 millisecond is the time it takes for a synaptic transmission, which is transferring signal from one neuron to the next. So imagine how many synaptic transmissions are there in a day. It's fast, and it's a lot. And for today's episode, how do you maintain your mental health and well-being in a fast-paced world? Right? You know, it's fast, right? I mean, the information, the synaptic transmission is really fast. And right now, with how technology has been, it rapidly changes the world. There are so many things happening every second at every part of the whole world that it's so easy for us to feel stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed. Information is readily available via the internet through our devices, whether it's you're using a laptop, a computer, a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile phone, right? The information is transmitted so fast. But when you think about, the idea of you feeling stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed, you have to keep in mind that you have to prioritize your mental health more than ever. So today we'll talk a little bit more about, mental well-being, and we'll talk a little bit about a few practices that you can help maintain that balance and resilience as you go through your 1,440 minutes of days or minutes in a day going through a fast-paced world where we live in. So without further ado, let's dive in. So if you look at a comparison of generation to generation, I mean, for those listeners who have experienced life without mobile phones, who have experienced life without internet, right? And you could go to the really suburb or the province. You could go to the distant provinces where you're at, and comparing it to the city life. Life in the provinces are pretty slow, pretty easy, and comparison to the city life where everything's fast-paced because there's technology everywhere. Everything is instant, right? And because information is readily available, everything is instant. Work pressure compounds more than ever compared to the provincial life. You have social media, you have that bombards you information left and right, updates from friends that may be thousands of kilometers away from where you are, from the other side of the world, right? That constant connectivity, it can contribute to your stress and anxiety. Now, stress and anxiety are two biggest problems of this generation. Imagine kids experiencing symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety. 3-4 decades ago, they don't even use the term anxiety, right? Back in the 1800s, there was a term called hysteria, which eventually, through the years, was actually a form of anxiety, right? When you have that anxiety, you know that you feel burned out. You have that mental fatigue. You have you feel uncertain about things because with how technology evolves, what you know now is something that's not may not hold true in the next 10 minutes, and that's scary, right? There's so much uncertainty nowadays that there's a pressure for us to be able to be updated, abreast with what's happening, be able to deliver on the minute, by the minute, every minute, as if we're like a Formula One support team that you only need to change tires in less than 3-4 seconds, right? And there's so many things happening in that 4 to 5 seconds, right? And with that pressure, yeah, we talked about anxiety, we talked about stress. These two actually manifest physically. It manifests how we handle relationships. And, from weight gain, obesity, from being bulimic, right? We, to relationships where we can really get snotty, we get really irked, really get upset for very small things, right? And because of these changes, these unwanted actions and reactions of our body and our mind towards that stress, that all of the information that we're getting, it affects our overall life, right? Now, when you talk about managing the stress, managing the anxiety, having that balance in this fast-paced world, we have to understand that what is the difference between folks in the city life and folks in the provincial life, right? In the provinces, they get 8 hours of sleep. They get to eat fresh. They enjoy fresh air, fresh food, clean water. They laugh a lot because they enjoy the very simple life, like maybe in the farmland. By noon, they're just sitting under the mango tree, strumming the guitar, and just waiting the day to pass by. Or maybe they end their day at as early as 4, and they start their day as early as 6. Or maybe end their day as early as 1, and they have the whole afternoon, right? There are actually a couple of countries who tried to address and try to put a balance in the fast-paced world. A lot of European countries, they only work for 6 hours a day. If I'm not mistaken, that's Germany. And guys, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm running from the top of my head. Or was it Netherlands or Ireland? I can't remember. But they only have 6 hours of work every day. And why do they do that? They want to give time for the working folks to time to be with their family, time to rest, time to socialize. Here in the Philippines, it's kind of normal for us to work 40 hours a week. Some employees would work 6 days. I mean, it's just a business need. But on the average, a majority would be working for 40 hours and maybe 50 because of overtime, right? And when you think about life in itself and you talk about these challenges and you think about how our day is, and especially like our kids now, they start school at 7 in the morning, they end their day at 4. There's a rule here in the Philippines: no assignment. I mean, correct me if I'm using the right term. Right? No assignment Fridays, right? But you'd see them giving them tons of assignments on a Thursday, and then submit it on Monday. So yes, you give them no assignment on Fridays, but when you talk to your kids, I won't be able to have time to go to the mall or spend time with the family because I have tons of assignments I have to do in the next 3 days because it's due on Monday or due on Tuesday, right? So it's not really a healthy balance, so to speak. Now, from a general point of view, how do we actually put some balance to it, right? First is you practice mindfulness. With so many things happening in the world, taking that 5 minute time off or 15-minute time off in your day to clear your mind, disconnect yourself from the world, and focus on yourself, focus on your priorities, right? And that's very important. Second, with so many things happening in the world and you only have 24 hours in a day, set boundaries. If you're supposed to be working for 8 hours, you work only for 8 hours. The world will not stop if you work longer than 8 hours, or if you don't work longer than 8 hours. Unless you're, let's say, in a life and death situation, like you're a hospital doctor or a fireman that you have to been putting out a fire, right? I mean, sometimes you have to work longer hours than that. But for it to become a routine for a person to be working longer than 8 hours every day, it's not going to be healthy, right? And boundaries itself is not only limited to working. You have to put a boundary even with technology. I covered an episode in season 3 or season 4 about digital detox, wherein I would recommend at least 1 to 2 hours before sleep time, you do not touch anything that has an LCD screen. Do not touch your phone, tablet, laptop, TV. Turn it off. Avoid the blue light being emitted from that, because that wakes up your brain and kind of affects your circadian rhythm, right? Third is, of course, practicing self-care. So, when you talk about practicing self-care, that includes eating right, maybe doing hobbies that brings you and connects you to your other self, your inner self, right? Self-care may also include, keeping the right mindset on work schedule, spacing and putting enough time for exercise, just to name a few, right? And these are very important, because if you practice self-care, like and I'll put meditation on that list of things that you can do from a self-care perspective, right? You set boundaries within your 1,440 minutes. There's a, and I'd like to close out today's episode with something I read online. There's a 8-8-8 rule, or an 8 rule. You have 8 hours of work, whether it's actual physical work, like professional work, 8 hours of school. So that's your 8. 8 of working and grinding. 8 hours of rest. So time to sleep, that's your physical nourishment, right? To recharge your social battery, your mental battery, your physical battery. And the other 8 is your social being. So it's mind, body, and soul, spirit, right? Your social being aspect. The other 8 hours may involve your social media, may involve other self-care practices, like your hygiene, your morning routine, right? It also involves your exercise, your hobby time. It involves you socializing with friends, maybe having coffee after work, or having dinner with your loved one, or maybe going on a date, watching a movie, right? Because you only have 24 hours. And segmenting it and being able to commit to it puts a good balance in what you do. And here at Empower and Evolve, we will not hesitate to remind you that for you to be able to start helping others to become a better version of themselves, you have to start with yourself. And we are here to cheer you on, support you, be your fan, be your number one critic if we need to push you, to help you in your journey to become a better version of you. So with that, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Again, my name is Dun. Catch you next week. Take care. Stay safe. Bye for now. Hey buddy, thank you for joining us on this transformative journey of empowerment and growth. Now remember, it's not just about evolving. It's about embracing that incredible power within you to become the best version of yourself. Keep striving for greatness, because together, we can create a world where empowerment knows no bounds. And if you find value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with someone who could use that little inspiration. Until next time, stay empowered, stay inspired, and keep shining brightly on your path to evolution. With Empower and Evolve, you have the tools to unleash your potential and rewrite your story. Let's continue to evolve together.